A couple of weeks ago, you listened to a very successful entrepreneur that had built a billion-dollar company. He did it sort of the old-fashioned way that people of my generation did this, which is he joined industry until he figured out a way to transition from industry into building his own company. Today, you're going to hear a completely different story. How many people here already have a startup or think they're going to do a startup while they're at U of M? Okay, all of you with hands raised should really enjoy today's speaker because he did that. And not only did he do it, but he did it successfully. His name is Rishi Narayan, and his company is called Underground Printing. And today he is going to take you through the journey of starting this company in college and where it is today. I know Rishi. He's very entertaining. I am certain you are going to enjoy him. In fact, when we were just backstage and talking about his time at the U of M, he mentioned two fun facts. One was that until about the age of 25, his mother was convinced that parking tickets were part of his College of Engineering tuition because he had them all sent to her house. And he also convinced her that all dorm rooms smelled like cigarette smoke. So, a man after my own heart, but a very successful entrepreneur. Let's give a warm welcome to Rishi Narayan. Thanks.
Thanks, sir. Thanks for outing me. I don't smoke anymore, by the way, just in case I was wondering. Thanks for having me, Tom. Thanks for having me, Boyd. Boyd got me out here, and I'm happy to speak to all of you. I was telling these guys the last time. I mean, I'd park right here and get tickets, and so I haven't been, even though I live in Ann Arbor, I haven't been up in and around North Campus since I graduated, basically, since the Duderstadt Center was the media union and all of that old timer type, reminiscing. So it's kind of cool for me to come back, even though I've been here the whole time, but to come back to engineering because I was an engineer. I am an engineer. I was a chemical engineer, and I actually have my bachelor's and master's in chemical engineering from U of M. So, but I'm not an engineer anymore, or at least not practicing, just in mind, just in thought. And these guys asked me to come and talk to you a little bit about how I got started, which was literally in college. So my life after engineering. So my story, what was my story? So this is my business partner in Underground Printing. His name is Ryan Gregg. That is us when we were 11 years old. We grew up together in Okemos, which is outside of East Lansing, if any of you are familiar where Michigan State is. My dad is a chemical engineering professor at Michigan State. Being that my dad is a chemical engineering professor at Michigan State, I left East Lansing and had to get out of there, and I came to U of M. My partner did too. He was a civil engineer, and so we were just doing our normal college thing. We were taking engineering classes. I was an engineer because my dad was an engineer, and I, like a good studious son, went and worked in my dad's lab. I wanted to work at Little Caesars with all my friends. He said I had to work in his lab because it was more educational, something like that. I don't know. So I worked in his lab, and I was really kind of enamored with what he did. I thought that what he was doing was engineering, or at least what I liked about what he was doing was chemical engineering. And I got to class, and I got to school, and no offense to any of the professors out here, but engineering did not really hold my attention like I thought it was going to. And what I kind of learned is that my dad actually was an entrepreneur. He would license his own technologies back to his companies, and he would spin off companies and create products and cool things. And that's what I was looking at, and that's what I loved. And I learned that my sophomore year of school. I learned it really early, and it was kind of revolutionary for me because I knew I wanted to try other things. So what happened? Well, it all kind of started with lofts. Now, when you guys came to school, you probably didn't know you may or may not know what a loft is, but before you had cool stackable furniture and brand new dorms, we had to build these things to lift your beds up so you could stick your couch and your fridge and everything underneath it. And my partner is a pretty handy guy. He built lofts for friends in his dorm, and he started selling them, and I started helping him. He would build them, I would sell them, and that was business. And we were just over the moon at how much fun we were having, running around campus, selling lofts, building lofts. Problem with selling and building lofts, if you really want to be an entrepreneur, is there's 1 week of business a year. It's welcome week. And then after that, you're like, what do? You just wait till the next year welcome week. So if you want to be in business, Lofts was not like, very exciting for 360 days a year. So we were looking for something else to do, something else that we could do while we were still taking classes. At the time, there was no CFE, there was no Empowered. Entrepreneurship was not cool. It was just like if you wanted to start a business, you had to make something. You had to make it and sell it. So there were, there were some people that were selling advertising or sponsorships, or, eatblue.com started around the time that I was in school, things like that. But we were looking for something that we could make and sell, because that's the only way we knew to be in business. So when I was in school, I bought my first car. I was so proud of this car. It was a Ford Probe GT. You see a picture of it right there. The fire, that's a real picture. That's actually, the fire came from the wheels like that. That's real. And I was so proud of this car. I bought it. I turned down a Honda Accord, the reliable car, and I got the Ford Probe GT Turbo. And it broke down all the time. All the time. I can never drive this thing without it breaking down. And I was driving home to Lansing, so I was driving on 23 for any of you that are familiar with Michigan highways. And my car broke down, the turbo blew up or something. And a tow truck driver picked me up, and we got to talking. He was kind of like a jack-of-all-trades kind of guy, and told him I was in school at U of M, and he told me he used to have a t-shirt company at U of M. It was called A1 Shirt and Sign. I was like, t-shirts, cool. That's kind of neat. Tell me about it. And he still had his equipment in a pole barn up in Michigan, up in northern Michigan, and I was like, we could sell shirts. So I went back to my partner Ryan, and I said, what about t-shirts? We could do shirts. And he was in a fraternity, and I was in Michigan Student Assembly for a semester, and we had a lot of friends in different places in different groups on campus, dance marathon. We're like, we could sell shirts, we could do this. So we went to the guy, and we offered him $5,000 that we borrowed from Ryan's mom, and bought his equipment. And so he's heading up north to bring his equipment down, and we're going to get started in business. We signed a letter of intent, I should say, and it was like $1,200 a month. And I called Ryan, and I was like, that's like 1 million t-shirts. How are we going to afford $1,200 a month? So I called up the guy, and I said, we can't do this. We have no place to put this equipment. I'm really sorry. Thanks for the opportunity, but we're going to have to pass. And he's like, don't worry about it. I'll just put it in my garage. I have a broken down Chevy on one side. You can just throw it in the other side, and you can work there. So we said yes. So that's how we got set up. We were in some tow truck driver's garage in South Lyon. That's 20 minutes away for those of you that don't know. And we had our small little four-color press next to a broken down Chevy. He had 2 golden retrievers that got hair all over all the shirts. So around that time, if you ever got shirts from us and you were like, what's this hair? It was a golden retriever's hair. And we set up there, and it was a lot of fun. That's how we got started. Our office was that dorm room in West Quad. If you look closely, you can see my roommate at the time passed out on the couch on the futon there. Fast fact, he went on to get he went on to graduate, surprisingly, and then he got his master's of accounting and became our CFO for 4 years, actually. He came back after being out in industry, and he just recently left a couple years ago. Still good friends of mine. So I would like to make fun of him for being in this picture. So yeah, that was our first dorm room, and then the next year we were in our fraternity house at U of M, and that's how we started. We would drive to South Lyon and print shirts. We'd drive to Plymouth and pick up blank shirts, and we'd drive in Ann Arbor, and we'd deliver to you because we didn't want you to know where we actually printed these shirts. We didn't want you to see that. So some of the trials and tribulations that we had production and we had sales, and it was hard to do both while still being in school. Part of the printing process involves water. You have to rinse out a screen. You use basically like a hose to rinse out a screen. We used a garden hose, and it was outside. So around November, we have a major production issue, which is like late November, early December, which is the garden hose froze. End production. So what do we do? So we started contracting out to different screen printers around Ann Arbor, and one of those printers was a company called Underground Printing. So our name was A1 Screen Printing, and I'll get back to that name in a second here, but our name was A1 Screen Printing, first in the phone book. It was genius marketing at the time to be first in the phone book, and it worked pretty well like this company, Google, came out, and all of a sudden people didn't use the phone book anymore, and genius marketing idea over. So we were called A1 Screen Printing, and we started contracting out to this company called Underground Printing. So they were printing the shirts, we were selling the shirts, we were going to Underground Printing in Chelsea before class, after class, during class, basically all the time. We were there all the time. We were running their sales and they were printing shirts. It was then and there that we really learned about production, how to print shirts, that kind of how the business is done. And I like to think that we like leapfrogged 5 years in 1 year because we were there all the time, kind of immersed in it. And they also, you know, we became such a big part of their business, and we were growing because we were able to focus on what we did well, which was selling and talking to people in customer service, that eventually we just bought them out. So we bought their equipment, we brought production back in-house because we felt like we could take control of it again, and we took their name because frankly it was a better name than A1 Screen Printing, which no longer was, like I said, genius marketing, and it kind of fit who we were. It fit us better in terms of what our mentality was and how we kind of hustled and what we did. And to this day, we're still a pretty bootstrappy company, and I think the people that know me personally and know the company kind of feel like it fits. So this was our first shop in Chelsea, Michigan. It was a real small shop, and eventually we outgrew this shop. I love this picture because we literally moved the shop ourselves. We packed up everything, broke down the machines. That's my partner Ryan, looking tough. And we put everything on the semi and like drove it down the highway from Chelsea to Ann Arbor and moved the shop ourselves. And we moved, and we were growing at the time because we were getting bigger by taking on bigger customers. It was around this time that the Pistons won the NBA title. It was like 2004. And we were printing a lot of like hot market shirts for the Red Wings, shirts for the Pistons, shirts where like we were printing lots and lots of them for very little money. So we were growing and we were getting bigger, but we weren't making any money. And we were working long hours, and we kind of dejected by it. And we went back to why we were growing in the first place, why we liked it. And it was dealing with all these customers, the sales, the customer service, meeting these people face to face. And we realized we didn't want to be that low on the totem pole. We wanted to be the ones that were talking to the customers. We wanted to be higher on the food chart. So we started kind of working on this retail store model idea. And the idea with it was that we would have a storefront right on the main Dragon campus, like right there, front and center. Walk in, talk to them, chat with them, right next to all the bars, right next to the restaurants. Not a typical place where you'd see like a custom print shop. You know, normally you're driving, 10, 15 minutes away to like an industrial park where they are able to set up. So, that was the basic idea. And we finally were able to rent a space on South University. We loved Southview. I still live near Southview, actually. We lived on that side of town. There weren't like the big high-rises then, but we always lived right around there. And so we wanted to set up shop there. We thought that was the place to be, the cool place to be. And this was the first shop. Idea was that we had samples, we had blank samples, we had a computer, we had a guy there, and you just had to stop in on your way to class or away from class to pick up shirts or talk to us about shirts. And we really, like, custom printing is not something that you're taught how to do when you're growing up. Everyone here knows how to go into a shop and buy a Michigan shirt because you grew up doing that with your mom, dad, whoever. No one knows how to order a custom printed shirt. Once you do it, and there's a big education process, then you can raise your hand and volunteer. But up until that point, it's a lot of customers get nervous about it. They're spending a lot of money. They're on the hook to their group or their fraternity or their charity walk or whatever it might be. So we felt like being face-to-face in a comfortable environment rather than in a shop where you're dealing with production and employees over here and what have you was a better option. I'll just fast fact, this is a real customer and that's the real store manager in this picture. That real customer and that real store manager got married like 7 years later, and I was like so excited. I caught this on camera, and I love to tell. This is my friend, and I love to tell him about it. And he was a little bit chunkier back then, so he like refuses to acknowledge this picture. So he says it's not him, but it is him, and I caught this on camera, and I was so proud of it. So this was the idea: our retail storefront. where you sold a destination-style product. And we started expanding it. It went well in Southview. That little store on Southview, we did $1 million in sales before we moved. And we started expanding. We moved to Western Michigan, Michigan State. And rather than going through all of the different places that we were, I'll tell you where we're at now. So we started at 2. We were at around 2007. We're about like 26. And we're actually higher than that. This is a little bit of an old graphic, but we're about like 200, 215 employees at this point throughout the country. And where are we? We're at, you may or may not know this, and if you don't know it, it's kind of by design that we have 20 locations throughout the country. There's an underground printing in these states. There's 3 underground printings in Ann Arbor, and 4 if you include our shop. But we have, we're at most Big Ten campuses. We are not at Ohio State, and that's by design as well. The whole state of Ohio. The whole state of Ohio, missing, you see? Light blue. So, we're at most Big Ten schools. We have schools as far south as Norman, Oklahoma, Lexington, Kentucky, Chapel Hill, and these are college towns. We're college town kind of guys. I was born in West Lafayette, raised in East Lansing, lived in Ann Arbor. I know college towns. That's what I feel. So, we've kind of pushed the model out, and the basis is a store on a main drag, right front and center, where it's easy, convenient, where you're going to get great service and great pricing. So our production has grown quite a bit as well because we do all of our own production. We don't source anything. So we're up to 55,000 square feet. This is on the west side of Ann Arbor. It's a street called Meddy Drive, so it's like getting close to Dexter if you're familiar. Still Ann Arbor. In-house embroidery, production, screen printing, digital printing, things like that. Some fun facts. We did 15.1 in revenue in 2014. We'll get close to 20 million this year, close. Over 200 employees. We have a lot of collegiate and Greek licenses, so that's actually one of the biggest things that we were able to do was expand out and grow our license base, and that's how college towns have really worked for us. We've been ranked as one of the top 15 screen printers in the country, and we're one of the largest brick and mortar screen printers, meaning we own our own stores. The cool thing about the stores for us was we got into stores when nobody else wanted to. It was all about online. It was all about Amazon. There was no Warby Parker opening up stores. There were no Bonobos opening up guide shops. There was no omni-channel. Brick and mortar was like a bad word. Nobody wanted to open up stores. So we got in with these stores on college campuses really cheap. We got great lease rates. We found really weird niche areas to go. And that was just due to that it wasn't sexy anymore to own a store. And then it started to come back. Google came back and did us a solid after ruining our name and made Google local a really high on the search. So our local stores came up over people that were spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on AdWords. So this stat that we have brick and mortar stores is a source of pride for us because now it has become cool again. Amazon has a store, their first store at Purdue. I don't know if you guys knew that. People are, traditional online only companies are opening up stores because people want to buy face to face. That's not going to go away. Our logo, the pinwheel that you see up at the top left there is a top-down view of a screen printing press. That's what that is. I like to tell people that. I just thought I'd click through some of our stores. If you haven't been in any of our stores in Ann Arbor, about 5 years ago, we bought Mo Sports Shop in Ann Arbor. I'll talk a little bit about that a little bit later. So, but that's one of our retail locations. And then some of our other store locations, I didn't put pictures of all of them, but we just kind of redid some of these. So Bloomington, Indiana, West Lafayette, Lexington, Kentucky, and Chapel Hill, North Carolina. So you can go to any of these colleges and drop in. And by and large, a lot of the time people don't realize that we have as many locations as we are, is that we kind of, we're like a chameleon. We morph to take on the personality of the town we're in because we so believe in college towns. So we don't stick with our official colors, so to speak. We take on the colors of the school, of the town that we're in. So in Chapel Hill, obviously, you got a lot of Carolina blue. Lexington, there's a lot of Kentucky Royal, that sort of thing. So, that's where underground printing is now. But as we've gotten bigger, I've really tried. What I really loved about entrepreneurship was, starting a company. I really loved the startup, and And the cool thing about shirts is everybody needs shirts. And so, around town and throughout, like with some of our customers, I became known, to go to for shirts. And I got to learn about a lot of businesses. And as I kind of learned more about businesses, I got involved in a lot more businesses. And I was able to start to kind of continue on with my passion, which was startups and small businesses, by founding more companies with other local entrepreneurs or investing in companies later on. So this is just kind of like a potpourri of companies that I've started or invested on top of underground printing, on top of underground printing. And it's been kind of a cool way for me to stay grounded in the startup and then learn a lot of things to come back to underground and moving forward. So I thought I'd go through a few of them and just tell you kind of a little bit of what I've been up to. So local businesses, part of underground printing is about being part of the community, and we feel passionately about that. So I've actually, when I was really young, became friends with the guys that started Big Ten Burrito, BTB Burrito now, Good Time Charlie's. They're good friends of mine now to this day, and invested in them and helped them. And we started a party bus company, pre-Uber, the Uber before Uber, BTB Party Bus, which none of you probably know about because it's been a few years, but it was a lot of fun. It's $2 rides around Ann Arbor, and I was actually giving a talk at the B School once, and one of the students raised their hand and was talking about how they got back to Ann Arbor after like 2 years gone and tried to call the party bus to come pick it up. It was like a very popular thing. So that was like very exciting for me, but it's hard running a cab company, so I give props to Uber for what they did. Another kind of cool thing that we did 5 years ago is we bought Moe's Sport Shops. So Moe's Sport Shops has been around for 100 years, and it's actually the birthplace of collegiate apparel. And we're celebrating it this year, and it's been kind of a cool thing to kind of take over a brand and learn about taking over a brand that's been through 5 generations of owners, has literally been there through time, through 100 years, and trying to refresh it for the new millennia. So that's kind of been a cool project or an interesting project for us. And also, how do you grow 2 brands at the same time that are in the same space has been a difficult one for us. Recently, we started a minor league soccer team called AFC Ann Arbor. In Ann Arbor, it's 4th tier. We just joined the NPSL. Actually, we just moved up, and that's been a lot of fun as well. So I have kind of dug back in and started. That was as recently as this year to restart a company just because I love it so much. Just by virtue of underground printing, I've gotten to know a lot more about apparel and retail, and invested in the men's retail, men's apparel lineup. A couple of the companies I invested in. This one on the right is a company called Today Clothing. It's on 4th Street. I helped start it with my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law, who before I met his sister, before I got married, was a chemical engineer in my class at Michigan. We were the only 2 people that did not go into engineering or become a doctor. And he went on to work at Brooklyn Industries, Kangol, become the head designer at WeSE, and then moved back to Ann Arbor where we started this retail company. So another engineer kind of doing, traveling the path, going the path less traveled, sorry. And then this company on the right, Stock Manufacturing, is a vertically integrated men's clothing company. They make all their own shirts and sell all their own shirts in Chicago and online. And that's been a real big passion of mine, is trying to vertically integrate our business at Underground Printing. We have to buy the shirts blank, and we do everything else in-house. I'd love to be able to make the shirts one day. And so I've been investing and learning about businesses where they're actually making the garments themselves. And this is one of those ideas. And we've gotten involved in some tech startups too. Some of you might recognize, like Wisely or Celio or FlockTag around town. And then the one at the top, Stitch Labs, was founded by a former Michigan engineer, a good friend of mine from when we were in school, who moved out to the Bay Area. And they're doing very well as well. So Michigan engineering has come through my life. And even though I have not been an engineer, I've been associating with former Michigan engineers that have gone on to different things. So, it all, for me, it all kind of started with that first retail store. And if you wonder, what happened to that first retail store? Where is it now? That's where it is now. It is that ATM on South University next to Espresso Royale. That's where our first store was. So that's my story, and I'm open for any questions, and thanks for having me.
Okay, thank you, Rishi.
Thank you so much for a really wonderful talk. I think a lot of students in the audience were really able to relate to sort of the Michigan experience and what you were able to do post-engineering here. I guess my first question for you is, what don't you do in terms of products and marketing and branding?
So it's kind of funny. The reason I really started a lot of these companies or got involved is for better or for worse, I grew up, I learned business in one business, underground printing. I mean, that's where I learned it. So I only know that. I didn't, I was an engineer, I didn't go to B school, and there weren't cool things like what we're doing right now to learn from. So for me, starting businesses was about learning about business. And to this day, I still look at it that way. If I invest in a company, that's basically like tuition. And if I lose that tuition, well, I should have pulled that dollar amount out in knowledge. And I guess, you could also say you could just become friends or learn about the company, but I learn better when I have skin in the game, I guess. And for me, this is a way to do that. So I get involved in a lot because I like learning about it and I like pulling things back out. And hopefully some things work and stick and make some money, sure. But if I go into it that way, then I feel like I can't lose. And at the end of the day, I actually have pulled back a little bit because I have 2 kids now, and I actually have a 6-week-old, and
Did you also meet your wife in one of the stores?
Yeah, I thought the what you don't do answer was going to be sleep.
Yeah,
so.
That's fair. Yeah, not a lot of sleep, but yeah, I have had to pull back a little bit, but I love companies. I love businesses.
I have a question. I'll just talk loud. So fashion is a really cluttered industry, and you mentioned that there were 25 other top fashion stores that you were competing with. How do you compare and differentiate yourself as a business to succeed in such a cluttered area?
In terms of underground printing, custom apparel.
Right.
So at Underground, and if you've been in any of our stores, you might think, oh, they sell Michigan gear, they sell whatever, they sell T-shirts, right? Well, that's only at 20% of our business. The retail component for us is to tell the story. It's a permission to enter. If we were just how we were when we first started, which was just some samples, a lot of people didn't know what to do, what to make of it. So I use a story, an analogy of, if any of you have seen the movie The 40-Year-Old Virgin, there's a scene where Jonah Hill walks into an eBay store and he wants to buy a pair of boots. You may not have seen this scene, but basically he can't figure out why he can't buy a pair of boots in a store. He has to go on eBay to buy it. And that's actually what is happening in our stores. People came in and they wanted to buy a blank shirt, and we're like, no, you have to go, you have to order it from us, and then we'll get you your own shirt, your shirts for your business or whatever. So what retail did was it was a way for us to tell the story. So when you say, how do we compete with all these other people? We don't, because we're not competing with them in retail. We're competing with custom printers, and those people that are coming in and shopping, they are associating us with T-shirts and retail, but hopefully they're coming in and learning about custom at the same time.
All right, let's give away a water bottle. Who has a question out here? First hand, right here.
Whoa. Hi. So as you and your business partner grew businesses, I have a couple questions.
You only get one water bottle, though.
Did you kind of maintain the same share of divvying up leadership? And then as you've grown and you're at this point, do you invest in the same companies or do you invest in different companies?
That's a great question. That's a really good question. So my partner and I are close friends, but totally different personalities. And we didn't see each other on the street and be like, hey, we're totally opposite from each other. Let's start a business together. It just worked out that way. It's like dumb luck. But because we are different personalities, we've been able to tailor ourselves to different parts of the business. But I should say, because we're different personalities, what we are comfortable with outside of the world of underground is totally different. So while my partner Ryan is invested in some of the companies that I have, he tends to be more about the control. He wants to be involved in decisions, and if he cannot be the one helping make decisions, he doesn't want to be involved. I'm kind of the opposite. When we invest in a company or I'm doing other things with other people, I can let a lot more go.
So who has a better track record?
Oh, I have a better track record. But I'm also spread out a lot more with a lot more businesses. So we're just different people, and we've learned not to force, we don't have to do everything together. But if anything ever comes up, I always talk to him about it.
John, we'll go back to you again.
Sure. So one other thing that I noticed when you were talking a lot about your beginnings was how you first targeted a lot of larger corporations. So doing deals with, you mentioned the Red Wings, the Pistons, this kind of stuff, very low margin but high volume work. How did you transition into the work that you're doing now, keeping into account The fact that you do a lot of your screen printing on your own, but yet still, I'm guessing, have to source a lot of your items, the raw T-shirts from other third-party manufacturers. How do you keep costs down while still sort of maintaining a good culture and not, winding up outsourcing everything?
So, that's a great question too. For us, it was learning to have confidence in product. So if you talk about like keeping costs down, what we realized is we didn't want to be a wholesale printer. We didn't want to be the person that was printing for the Red Wings. We wanted to be the person that was dealing with maybe like a 12-shirt church league or something like that. Not exciting to tell someone like, oh, I print for the Pistons, but we felt had more value. And the thing is that rather than worrying about like the cost structure, once we were able to develop a confidence in product, we were able to have confidence in price. We're not going to be the cheapest out there. There's going to be some guy in Arizona online that's cheaper, and there's going to be someone that's better in some way or that way. We just had to be the best, or what we felt was the best in the product we delivered, which was the service and the convenience, and made sure that our prices were comparable and competitive with everyone else. And once we were able to do that, that's really where we found our niche and we were able to grow.
So through that confidence in that, do you try to then source some of your products internally from the United States or through Detroit in terms of manufacturing, or is that not necessarily a factor in the equation?
Oh no, it's definitely a factor. But because we, with Underground, we are making products for other people. It's a custom product. I can't push someone to say, oh, you really need to do, pay for a Detroit-made T-shirt if they're giving away swag and they have to have the bottom line of, cheap as possible. So we're kind of beholden to our customer as to what their needs are. But in the case where they really want to, they really want something made in the USA, we have lots of options for that. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a really great question, and I think that. You can keep your water bottle. For us, what we realized is that our stores are not about sales. Yeah, we stopped hiring salespeople or looking for like great salespeople, and we looked for great people that wanted to take care of people. We stress that, and we compensate based off of that, as opposed to how much we don't want to hire sales rainmakers. We hire people that take care of people. That's their focus. And we let the sales fall where they may, and we let the machine and like the things that we do and all the marketing we do try to like push people there. Now, every once in a while, you have someone that's great at sales and great at taking care of people, and that person really kind of excels and starts to lead other people and can land bigger clients. But when we started just saying we don't need to hire someone that's great at sales, we need to hire someone that knows how to apologize when they do something wrong or has no problem saying sorry 100 times when something goes wrong. Once we've started realizing that, that's, I think, where I was able to feel comfortable with that.
Okay, we've got a question here. Yeah.
So knowing the career path that you took, are you happy that you still chose to do an engineering degree? And have you looked into or thought about going back for a different degree in a different discipline? That's
a great question. So when I was in school, I will be honest, I was a little bit, I come from like a background where, having a PhD, my dad is a PhD, getting to the highest level of like an academic field is of great value. And so, internally I had a lot of conflict on that, like should I go back to school, should I stay in school? I mean, that's really why I got my master's, was because I wasn't sure what I was supposed to do, so I just kept doing it. Just kept printing t-shirts and going to school. And where, for me, what ended up happening was I just had to like become okay with the fact that I wasn't going to be a PhD engineer. I took a lot of my master's classes actually in IOE and production manufacturing, and that related back to me. But once I was able to like get over that to some degree, I had a lot more confidence. I also married a PhD chemist, so there's another Dr. Narayan there. So I worked it all out.
So
strategy.
So you've got two sons. What are you going to do when they say, Dad, we just want to be in the t-shirt business. College is a waste of time.
Oh man, my sons are like 2.5 and 6 weeks. I don't need to think about that right now. I really think when they go to school in 15 years, the question you're asking me would be like, everybody just does it. I feel like college will be a path, and it'll be one of many paths, and not like the path that people like hold to high regard. I think it will just be commonplace that some people go to college and some people start businesses and some people do what they do.
All right, hang on, we got one right here.
So a follow-up question to what was just asked is, how do you think that your engineering education at Michigan contributed to your success?
Yeah, great question. I would not have done anything other than engineering. And I know that I've been told that this group is not all engineers, so I'm not just pandering to the crowd, right? Actually, maybe more non-engineers. But engineering was great. I like engineering, I really do. It's all about problem solving and thought process. Because out in the business world, all the problem sets you do and all the presentations you have to make, that really prepares you. Because then when you go out in 5 years and you actually have to make a presentation or put together a spreadsheet, the fact of the matter is not everybody can do that. Actually, most people can't do that. So the fact that you can even put that together and critically think is of great value, I feel. So for me, it's all about the process, the problem solving, and the skills you learn. And then it's just about like powering through. I mean, like you're an engineer, you have to power through. That's business in a nutshell.
You made lots of like marketing decisions and from opening
Sorry,
retail.
I can't. Oh, there you are. I couldn't find you. There you go. Okay.
From opening a store to expanding to other states, from adapting other states to their own colors. Like, how do you make these market decisions and evaluate them? Do you like try it out or?
Say that again. Sorry, I missed the middle of your question.
You made a lot of marketing decisions.
Yes,
including
okay.
to making a retail store, to expanding to other states.
Yeah.
Letting other states have their own color.
Yeah,
Do you
right.
like try out new marketing strategies,
okay.
or do you evaluate
Got you. Yeah. I would love to say, like, when we started, we had this amazing A/B testing process or whatever. No, we just tried stuff, really. And honestly, we were just right more often than we were wrong, and that's really what it came down to. Was we were right a lot, and if we were wrong a lot, I wouldn't be here right now. You guys wouldn't be listening to me, and I would be doing something else. So in the beginning, we were not testing, but we also had a lot less to lose. Nowadays, we test a little bit more, but still not a lot. A lot of times we feel like, okay, we shouldn't just go in and do something. We're still small enough to be able to do that. I know bigger companies, and we work with some bigger companies where that's just not the case. And honestly, I like being able to just try stuff, and that's why I still tend to go to the startup kind of world, and I like that more. That's just more my personality.
All right, we got one right here. You and your partner seem to have had like a lot on your plate while you were developing this business while still in college. How did you find the balance between like being a college student and developing your startup?
Yeah, I wished I was a part of more student groups. I wish I studied abroad. There were a lot of things that I did not do because the company was what I was doing. But the cool thing about T-shirts was that I was still a part of the college experience by virtue of what I did. So I still felt like I was in all these student groups, and I still felt like I was hanging out with people. So that was just something, like, for me, if I had started a business that wasn't part of the college experience, I may have just dropped it, right? But because T-shirts are quintessentially college, it worked out for me. And not that, for people that are starting businesses now that they have to start a business for college, but really, if you're going to try something out, starting a college-based business while you're in college makes it a lot more fun.
All right, John or Ben, while I walk.
So right now we're reading 0 to 1, which advises how to go from just a dream into reality as far as a startup. How do you advise this crowd filled with budding entrepreneurs to turn their idea and push it forward into reality?
There's a series of stickers in the CFE office, right? They're try, do, fail, and risk. And Tom was telling me earlier that the sticker that is least taken is try. So my answer to you is take the try sticker. I mean, that's really the answer. The try sticker should be the sticker that's taken the most, because that's how you do it. Because trying is the only way that you take the risk and do and fail. But before you do any of that, you have to try.
Here in the front.
Hi. So I guess like part of entrepreneurship is knowing when to really pursue something and knowing when to step back and just call it quits.
Yep.
And you talked about starting really small, right? Printing in the tow trucker's garage and stuff.
Yeah.
Did you have that critical point where you were like, okay, maybe we have something here? And from that point on, did you know, like, okay, I'm gonna put all my resources behind this and pursue it? Like, did you have that one moment where you guys knew you had something?
No, we did not. This is actually a great, like a lot of you, I watch shows like Shark Tank. And Shark Tank is, I feel like Shark Tank is for business what Grey's Anatomy is for, doctors. You watch it, it's kind of real, but not really. And the thing with the Shark Tank that kind of always strikes me as odd is people that just they've taken out second market, they put it all on the line for this grand idea. And I don't really think that that's entrepreneurship. I don't think that's smart business. I think it's a lot of hedging your bets. And I think it's a lot of risk management. So when you say, did you have one moment where you just put it all out there? No, we like stepped and stepped and stepped and stepped and stepped, and then made a decision, then moved back, and then made a decision, moved back. And because it was like that was what we were doing, and we couldn't afford to put it all out on the line. And to this day, you know, by virtue of my master's chemical engineering degree, where I didn't take any chemical engineering classes, I took a lot of lean manufacturing classes. And so I'm a big proponent of lean manufacturing and lean production in general. And that's improvement right there. That's all like, you know, that's Kaizen, right? So no, it's not all about like one singular moment where you put it all on the line. That works, sure. I mean, there are a lot of great success stories where people just dropped out and did it, right? But I don't think that's the norm. I think that's an exception.
I'm really interested in like the actual moment of inception of things like this. So whatever happened with the tow truck driver?
That's great. Yeah, this is a try thing. So the tow truck driver was around for a long time. Like actually, he still has like a whole book of my CDs somewhere. I don't. I left it in his thing. But,
What's
you know,
a CD?
Yeah, great point. So we lost track of the tow truck driver, and it's actually a big regret because I'd love to have gone back and take pictures and like have him as like a, hey, do you remember when kind of thing. But we lost track of him when we stopped producing in his garage and just lost track of him. So I would love to know where Rick is. That was his name.
All right, we have one more from the audience, and then I'm going to let the final question be from the stage.
So you say you have 20 retail shop, right?
Sorry, say that again?
You said you have 20 retail shop.
Okay.
Is right?
Yep.
So how do you manage your retail network to be successful in each location?
So the way that we've done it is we made a decision earlier. We were talking about like testing things out versus making the right decision. We made a decision to very early on to bring in our own development team. This was like, and I'm not saying we're a tech company. We're not, like, by virtue, we're not a tech company, but we kind of are, because the only way we could manage efficiently and cheaply a lot of stores was not to buy software like licenses. We couldn't afford that. So we just built like a web system so they could all talk to each other. Prior to that, we were like faxing, believe it or not, faxing orders from the store on Southview to the shop. So one of the biggest things we did to manage was invest in our own infrastructure, our own like software. And we built that out and built out the communication and the order process and all of that. So this, like, at this point, like, it's actually pretty good. We have a very good back-end system because custom printing is a very fragmented, like, very archaic business, even to this day. And there was no solutions out there for it. We had to build our own solution. And now we were just so far along, we could probably piece together a different solution at this point, but we built a pretty good one at this point.
All right, John, last question from you.
All right, so on our final note, one of the reasons that we bring you here, obviously, is to impart a lot of wisdom in the budding entrepreneurs in this room, but another key aspect is also helping to grow the CFE and helping to grow what a lot of our mission is in terms of our role on campus. But I'm curious from your perspective, if you could come back in after having gone through the College of Engineering, obviously before something like this was really as prevalent as it is now on campus, what would you add to it? What would you change? And what would you ensure was a part of the curriculum for students who want to be entrepreneurs when they leave college?
I will say, it kind of like addresses what you're saying, but I will say, and Tom and I were talking about this backstage, business is not all tech startups and raising money and creating an app. And you may or may not have heard this, but like people have to make stuff. And they're great businesses that are pretty mundane, or you would just look past it. And business can be about making something and selling something, and business doesn't have to be a bad word, right? So when you're thinking about starting a business, you're solving a problem, you're creating a solution. Right now, it's like really, it's not easy, but it's a lot easier to get other people's money. But sometimes it's about making something, selling one of it, making a profit, and then selling 2 of it, and then making some more profit, and then selling 5 of it. And if you can like root yourself in that to some degree, even if you are raising money from other people's money, you can, I think you're like poised for success. Because even along that way, there's not like an epic failure, like raise a bunch of money, you're out of business and you go. And I mean, you just step your business back or forward and you're able to iterate like we were talking about earlier.
Wise words, thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's give Rishi a round of applause. Thank you all. Everybody have a great weekend. Remember, next week you're coming in through the stairs.
In these 24 years, constantly we worked in making sure we had the right service offering, the right strategy. We'll spend more amount of time.